Welcome to another episode of Progress, Potential, and Possibilities, discussions with fascinating people designing a better tomorrow for all of us. I'm your host, Ira Pastor.
Welcome everybody again to another episode of our show, bringing you another really fascinating guest today involved in creating a better tomorrow for many people. Today we have the honor of being joined by Keith Camhi, who is the Managing Director of the Techstars Future of Longevity Accelerator, which is a program run in partnership with Pivotal Ventures, which is an investment and incubation company created by Melinda French Gates, that's focused on innovative solutions to ultimately address the unmet needs of older adults and their caregivers. The Longevity Accelerator core program themes focus around caregiver support, care coordination, aging in place, financial wellness and resilience, preventative health, and social engagement. Keith was previously the Senior Vice President of Accelerators for Techstars globally, and he was ultimately inspired to move to this Managing Director role based on him as having been involved in venture-backed startups in the past, serving older adults, having experienced the various gaps in the caregiving infrastructure in America firsthand, and wanting ultimately to support entrepreneurs to build solutions to address this significant market opportunity. And Techstars is a global business investment group that provides capital, but also one-on-one mentorship, a worldwide network, and various form programming for early-stage entrepreneurs. It was founded back in 2006, and as of 2022, the company has had over 2,900 companies in its accelerator programs that have a combined market cap of around $70 billion, so being very successful. Prior to Techstars, Keith founded and led the rapid growth of two tech companies in the health and fitness industry, one that reached number 20 on the Deloitte Fast 500, a number that made Entrepreneurs Franchise 500 three times in a row. Keith has raised over $50 million of venture funding. He holds patents for sensor and machine vision technologies. He's been an angel investor and a limited partner in several venture funds, and ultimately enjoys mentoring promising startups. Keith has his bachelor's in computer science from Cornell. Was a leader for a global operations fellow at MIT, where he got an MBA as well as a master's degree in electrical engineering and computer science. We're lucky to have him with us today. Keith Camhi, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the very kind introduction. I appreciate that. I want you to be on my PR team. How about that? Thank you.
I'm the
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating background. What if we could start off, if you could just, talk a little bit about the early days, because, you have been involved, before this whole Techstars longevity domain in fitness, in health, and the aging population. Talk about some of your early experiences, if what introduce us to sort of what got you interested in the space in general.
Yeah, so happy to. So it's interesting. I came into it by accident, and it ended up being an incredible opportunity. And I'll distinguish that in the longevity category. I think of it as two parts. That there's the part where we're trying to help people live longer, the bioscience of that, and the biotech, and all these experts in biology and things. And I'm not that. Like, I don't know how to make people live longer. However, as they're living longer, how do we do that in a way that is that we're supporting them and the people who end up caring for them? So as we're all living longer, what do we do about that? That's a category that I've been spending a long time on. That's what our program is focused on with Pivotal, and that's where I had some experience early on. And boy, in the early days, so this dates back to the 1990s when I did my first startup in fitness technology, and we were making basically a computerized personal trainer. So picture you have a weight stack machine, Nautilus, Cybex, something like that, and I'm walking around with a golf pencil and a workout card using this and going to MIT by day, doing this by night, and going, there's got to be a better way. And so we start thinking about how do we outfit this with sensors so it can collect my data automatically? How do we give interactive feedback so it's like a personal trainer? And eventually decided to turn that into a startup and try to commercialize that. Well, the first idea was that this is for athletes. And so as a 20-something-year-old entrepreneur, I'm thinking about my target audience all right. And so our first customer ends up being the New York Knicks. And we end up in the Patrick Ewing era, back when they were actually good. So this is not, but it was a very difficult market to tap. It's like if you rolled out the entire pro sports, all leagues, it's not a big enough market to make it. And then our second market then ends up being commercial clubs. So we're targeting who we thought we needed it. Turned out we backed into being a niche use case for YMCAs who were looking to service the so-called ready-to-be-fit population. And we had the perfect product line to help people after their first workout. How do we keep you on a program? It turned out that that population was disproportionately older, first-time exercisers who were doing it for health reasons. And so we stumbled into this market and realized there's this huge untapped opportunity. And so fast forward years of doing that, and we became the preeminent platform and ended up raising venture capital off it before there was kind of an age tech theme in venture, and before there was even a fitness tech theme. We had a VC in California see our installation at the San Francisco Y and saw a woman in her 80s using a Nautilus machine with our computers on it, and said, okay, this is weird. Like we're not used to seeing either of these two things happen. They must be onto something. And so we rolled out a whole system by targeting older adults, and that was kind of an eye opener into that's being a dramatically underserved market space. So that's one of our themes all the way today, 2 decades later, more than 2 decades later, on how to kind of cross the chasm for a startup to focus on older adults as a real market opportunity.
Excellent. Excellent. And I read, the little blurb at the beginning about Techstars in general. And, I don't think, when I was looking at it, I was like, okay, I get it. There's capital, there's these networks, that's all fascinating. But at the same point, there's very few, but nonetheless, you put it all together, you got a $71 billion market cap company in general. Talk a little bit about how this all started before we get into longevity, because I think there's the Techstars story, and part of this, like in 15 years, 2,900 companies, billions of dollars markup. Give us a little background story to that as well, if you would.
Yeah, and so Techstars is amazing. So I can say this, having not been a founder of Techstars, so I can speak on behalf of our amazing founders and say they were brilliant, because this platform this platform was compelling enough that after not having worked for anyone else but myself for the last 2.5 decades, I wanted to get onto their platform. So this is the first time I've signed up to be part of someone else's company since the 90s. And I've been here for 4 years. But the backstory is that beginning in Boulder, Colorado, 15 years ago, the founders of Techstars saw an opportunity in the early stage of supporting companies. They were former entrepreneurs themselves, and after exiting their company, they wanted to invest in early stage companies. The observation they made as would-be angel investors back then was that angel investors are kind of abusive to startups. There was a bad thing, and so the classic story one of the founders tells is that, yeah, we went to a pitch event and we charged founders to pitch to us as we ate little sandwiches and made them perform, and they didn't know that most of us would never invest. And so in reaction to that, they decided that there's got to be a different way where we give first to founders with no expectation of return as mentors. And then as they grow, good karma comes back. And so they created the very first accelerator in Boulder, Colorado. They got 10 companies and 100 of their closest friends together to support the companies for a 3-month mentorship period. So a little bit of capital. We take an equity stake in each company. And then surround them with mentors for 3 months to help them see around corners. And the theory is that you can make 2 years progress in 3 months if you have enough people surrounding you to give you advice that And the advice is of the form of, I've seen this movie before, I know how it ends. So for me, as an example, I go back to my first company, FitLinks, that I was telling you about. Had I had mentors 100 mentors surrounding me talking about these different market categories, I wouldn't have spent a year going after the pro sports target audience. Like, they would have said, like, hey, did you know none of them are going to pay you? They're all going to give you tickets in exchange for your tech. And I would have saved a lot of time. And then same thing with the commercial clubs. Do you know that they're really price sensitive and you got a high-end product? That's not going to work. And maybe they just would have even said that the YMCAs are looking for something like this. And so by surrounding companies with this mentorship, you can cut off years of missteps and missed opportunities. Fast forward now 15 years later, that same model has rolled out to 50 locations worldwide, where we're running these both as Techstars and in partnership with others. So my program that we're talking about is run in partnership with Pivotal Ventures, as you mentioned, here in DC. And we're literally all over the world doing this in nodes of 10 to 12 companies per node, providing capital and mentorship. And the beauty is that while we run in these small nodes that are highly focused in handholding, there's a network in the back where all of these companies, the alumni, the mentors, the investors are all interconnected in this globally distributed network. So there's some other accelerators. There are some that are like the big battleship model, where take a few hundred companies into a class, and that's tremendous as well, but it's not that hands-on experience. And then there are others that are really good independents that will run one program, but you don't get the whole network that way. To me, Techstars is the best of both worlds, and I'm excited to be part of it. It's the I'll do this forever, so it's great.
Awesome. And then now, so now diving down into longevity, and I appreciate, Keith, at the beginning, you sort of delineating, and we've gone into both topics on the show. We talk, a lot about age tech, which is sort of the bucket that I put a lot of what you do into, and then sort of the other side of that, geroscience, how do we get someone to live to 120 or whatever? That's over here, not what you do. But it's interesting because the geroscience space, obviously, in recent years, has gotten a lot of big names around it. These guys, Bezos, and some folks from the Google, working on, ultimately how we get to 90, 100, 110, stuff like that. Talk a little bit about, if you would, introduce us to Pivotal Ventures, Melinda French Gates. What got them excited? Their background, interest in age tech, in this specific area, and then ultimately how that you go about setting up a specific longevity accelerator, and then we'll get into exactly the cohorts and all that after that.
Yeah, no, I love it. And yeah, I love that people are working on helping us live longer. That's terrific. And I hope they find that Fountain of Youth. It's the new Fountain of Youth hunt that, and this one might actually work. So it's great. But as they live longer, it turns out, and we do this there's a really nice video. Actually, our Future Longevity Demo Day. If you Googled Future Longevity Demo Day Techstars, you would find this, and Melinda Gates kicks it off, and then we have a brief video that is a 3-minute thing on this whole topic. But essentially, it's great that we're living longer. That's a gift that is tremendous, and it sets up two challenges. Like in longer life, the products and services that are available for the older adults themselves is a massive opportunity. The market spend is like 56 cents of every dollar is spent by someone 50 and over. Mm-hmm. There are 10,000 people turning 65 per day. Older adults are going to outnumber children soon in the U.S. for the first time in history. Like the stats are that like the market opportunity is huge, and yet the quality of the products and services we offer, even just the accessibility of them, the design for inclusion, the workflows are not very well done. So there could be more opportunity there. And the startup community has neglected this category for a long time because founders solve problems that they see. And so young founders in hoodies are not thinking about, older adults. They're thinking about just like I was in my fitness days, right? Like I got pulled into it. But we're starting to see like older entrepreneurs emerge who are focusing on the problems of the older adults. The second thing, though, so there's the older adults themselves. The second huge opportunity, and this is what brings Pivotal to it, is that the caregiving is a big deal. Yep. So the unpaid family caregiver in the U.S. is 40 million people per year. So 40 million Americans per year are taking care of their aging parents for free. That turns out to be a massive economic disruption. That yep. tens of billions of hours a year that is unaccounted for. And Melinda Gates in her book makes this point that if we accounted for that at what it would have been, it would be one of the largest sectors in the economy. It would be a $500 billion sector of that care was actually accounted for, and maybe what people would start paying attention to it from a policy standpoint. But for now, it ends up being this free service in the healthcare continuum of oh, here's your aging parent back, why don't you take care of them? And so specifically then where Pivotal gets involved is they're focused particularly on trying to accelerate social progress where it's stalled, and especially on gender equality. Well, America's oldest daughters are by and large taking care of our parents and disrupting their careers in the process. And it's it's an act of love, and it's a beautiful act. And it's so broken. It's so broken what we have to do from care, all the themes that you read out at the beginning, caregiver support, care coordination, all of these are what thrust us into having this dysfunctional system that we then are filling the gap with unpaid family care. And so our program is focused on trying to make that better, so that we have fewer people's careers disrupted, 3/4 of whom tend to be women, and more joy in the taking care of our family as opposed to dealing with all the challenges of it.
Excellent. So I thought, based on that, I thought we could jump into some of the current class or the current cohort, just to give the audience an understanding of sort of the breadth of some of these technologies and services that you have been developing in these various companies. I thought a very interesting one because it crosses over into preventative physical health, social engagement, and aging in place, sort of all in one, is a company called Vivo, which has created a virtual personal fitness program, focused muscle strength, but has these live interactive classes as well. So once again, you're bringing in sort of the loneliness, the personal, the interactions, social determinants, and what have you. Talk a little bit about Vivo, if you would.
Yeah, and thank you for looking into our class. I love it. This is great. So Vivo is Vivo's extraordinary. So Vivo is exactly what you described. So it's small group classes conducted online. So it's video classes for older adults, and it's specifically strength training for older adults. It also includes some cognitive things. There are some bells and whistles beyond it, but the idea is that strength in many ways is part of the fountain of youth and aging successfully, avoiding falls, which are catastrophic, and even overcoming, so even preventing certain disease states. Like getting some strength training involved in what you're doing is really important, and it's hard to do. They've created a scientifically validated program that's in combination with Duke University that actually gets measurable results in your strength on a bunch of indicators. And importantly to me, as a fitness tech guy, the retention is extraordinary. So customers stay with it. So there's a 98% month-over-month retention rate. And so as an investor, that's what I look at and say that, okay, this is paying customers who continue to pay. You've solved for something. And that's one of the biggest gaps in fitness tech is that people love it as first and then drop off quickly. Well, this is one that people are actually sticking with because it's fun and it's engaging and you have an instructor. And they started out as a direct-to-consumer, so it's an out-of-pocket pay by consumers who are joining these classes, and again, the super retention rate. And then as they've medically validated the outcomes and started working in combination again with Duke, they got a grant from National Institutes on Aging to study this and put it in effect for diabetes prevention. And they are now starting to become available just beginning in next year on Medicare Advantage plans. And so they're kind of pivoting from a direct-to-consumer to also being a B2B2C where there's a third-party payer involved. And so I think kind of sky's the limit for their upside potential, and they've already got some venture backing. And so expect big things from them.
Excellent. Moving from preventative health on the physical front to preventative health on the cognitive domain. You have a company, Bright, which, and this was because this in some ways, okay, age tech, but this also reaches over in many ways to the neuroscience domain as well. So this is a company involved in passive light therapy that's found some fascinating connections with certain wavelengths of light and the reduction and atrophy of the brain, which is that's $1 trillion win right there alone. But the other interesting, because we we do a lot in the pharmaceutical industry on the show, but a lot of members of pharma lately have been investigating these, what I'll call these biophysical tools, whether it's electricity or magnetism or light in this case, as alternatives to drugs. Talk a little bit about what's happening with Bright.
Yeah, this one's fascinating. I had to look at this a bunch of times because I get non-expert, and you say, all right, so this company, and I know the founder, applies to our program and says, all right, I got something that helps prevent Alzheimer's. And I'm like, okay, and you get there by flashing light, and I'm like, all right, this is Snakebill, right? Like there's no way there's no way this makes sense. Well, it turns out you start digging in, and it's not FDA approved yet. So it's released as a consumer product. This doesn't have FDA claims. However, there's research coming out of MIT and other universities are now beginning to validate that you can look at the professor's TED Talk and papers and so on, that there's some promise that light and or sound therapy at 40 hertz is gets the brain to do the thing that helps clear the plaques out, that I then stop following the science at that point because that's beyond my electrical engineering and computer science training. But I saw the right professor. But so the idea is that this just might hold some promise for helping prevent the buildup of the plaques that that appear to lead to Alzheimer's. And it's this, and so they're now commercializing lab science without, again, it's not a medical product. It's marketed differently than that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
they're taking the science out of the lab at MIT and distributing it in these beautiful lights that you just simply, if I had one here, you turn it on by the side of your computer and just let it passively activate for an hour a day, and then you have this kind of flickering light in the background. It's like candlelight. And it holds some promise to actually helping. And people also report like it helps with sleep and other things. So really, and it's I'd say that in that category, the reason that and it's a $1 million plus business already, and has a lot of promise to grow. I think that people are so desperate for an opportunity in the space that even things that you don't want to sell people snake oil, but this is valid. It's the beginnings of validated science coming out of the lab, and so if I can get early access to it,
Yep.
It's amazing. And they've got, and their investors tend to be people who fully understand the science and say, yes, we should be providing early access to this in advance of it becoming an FDA product.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating one, as I said, where the whole domain of biophysical interventions versus biochemical is having a major resurgence. So it was very cool to see that your portfolio was also considering some of these crossover possibilities. So that's really neat.
Yeah. And I will say, and again, it's amazing because you go at first blush, you go, that's got to be, there's no way. And then the more you dig into it, it's astounding the science that appears to be forming behind it and the validation behind it. So anyway, anyone who's worried about like preventing family history or whatever, go check that one out, because like I think you'll be excited and say, hey, this might be worth a shot. It's like one of those things with it appears to have like no clear downside risk and the potential to be a early prevention before there are better solutions. So anyway, a very exciting opportunity.
Let's talk about Camhi now, because you mentioned 40 million unpaid care workers, hundreds of billions of dollars in lost productivity. Camhi creating the care concierge, successful aging, do anything on this platform from scheduling home repairs, healthcare appointments, and everything in between. Take us into this one as well, because this is it seems like another major win.
It's great, and a brilliant CEO, Chikisha Kidd, is running it. She's out of the health insurance industry, and so seasoned executive in that category. And her the founding story behind this, which a lot of people can relate to, is that as the daughter, when mom, when dad passed away, mom now needed some some more support from family, and in her case, this isn't an example of ailing parents. This is just an example of, like, need some help with things, whether that be scheduling social engagements, or knowing what's available, or kind of general concierge services, and some medical, but it's not like health coordination in this. There's some platforms that do like real health coordination and are doing all your medical appointments. This is for the 75% of older adults who aren't in that category but need some coordination. And her basic story was that I was going and spending a few hours a week with mom, and all my time was coordinating all these things for her, so I didn't have time to hang out with mom. I was going through the bills and doing getting whatever ordered, and getting her an appointment with this and that, and not getting quality time to be together as family. So if we could have someone take care of that, be our concierge for those things, then my time with mom can be high quality time where I'm getting to be with mom instead. So Chikisha created a platform for doing just that. And again, initially as a direct to consumer, and has had some success in their trial markets, and now starting to be picked up as a employee benefit, because the employee, going back to again the Pivotal's founding theme of, like, we want to stop disrupting our children's careers by taking care of mom and dad. By having a service like that, you're now enabling these adult children to be focused on career, and then their time with their parents can be family time. So a very, very promising platform, and getting some venture capital backing now as well, and is optimistic about where they're headed.
Excellent, really excellent. Keith, what the several of these companies, are these the first or the second? I know you had a couple classes already. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the schedule of sort of where the different classes are? Do you have one coming up? And then obviously, if you could talk to the audience in terms of everyone listening that has neat age tech conventions and things they want to approach you with at some point, what's the process? What's the schedule for the next class, or whatever the proper terminology is? Please take us into that.
Wonderful, thank you. Yeah, we've completed 2 classes, we were talking about companies from our most recent class. We also had a class before that with some very interesting products as well, so you can find those all online. Again, in similar themes, doing some great work out there. And we have applications open right now for our 3rd class, so good timing for anyone seeing this now. Mm-hmm. And that program is going to run starting in January. So apps are open now for it, and the applications will be open for another month or 2. So in fact, let me give you the exact date. So we have that. So the applications are applications for that are open now and run through September 28th. So apps are due by September 28th, and you can find out more information about applying if you do have a startup in the category. If you just Google Techstars longevity, you'll find us. And you'll get links to all sorts of additional information. But essentially what we tend to look for, we're an early stage investor. So we're often companies' first institutional check, or second if you got some angel funding or something like that. But we provide $120,000 in investment in a combination of equity and a convertible note. The note is optional. And then this 3-month mentorship program. Our mentorship program for longevity is just a who's who in the category. And you can get a peek at the mentors on our website as well by clicking through and clicking through the full list. But they're experts from around the country and around the world in exactly the categories we're talking to. And so we've actually had, like Vivo had actually raised some substantial capital before joining, and joined just to get access to that network. It wasn't just for the capital, but and that is helping inform some of the opportunities in their B2B2C approach now. So what we tend to look for are promising technologies. It can be a technology itself or a technology-enabled service, something that's venture backable. It's not just a family business, but it's something that's venture backable, rapid growth opportunity. And we say that we look for 6 things in a founder. In addition to being part of our theme, the first 3 things are team, team, team. So it's all about the people. At this early stage, it's really hard to get, it's not like we're looking at earnings reports or anything like that. It's all about the team and your competence and capability to deliver on a solution like this, which tends to be things like entrepreneurial resilience and the ability to get things done. If it's a tech product, you have a tech person on the team helping with that, or how are you going to get all this good stuff done? And then after that, we're looking for big markets. So all startups are hard. You might as well work on something that if it works, it's going to be big. And so most things related to this category tend to be pretty large. That's we're looking for some traction, so some validation that customers are interested. Most often that takes the form of you have some revenue. So we have companies anywhere from a little bit of revenue to over $1 million in the case of some of these companies. Usually if you're like, many millions of dollars, you might be past the stage of an accelerator. And then finally, the idea itself. And the idea itself is on our list because it's important, but we put it last because ideas can pivot so much in program. You could be working on something, this type of solution, and you pivot it over to something else. So that's what we can help with. But that's, and it's, I founded 2 companies. I would take the third one through an accelerator, even though I know how to start a startup, because this access to that mentorship and being able to see around corners for distribution strategy, for product development, for venture capital access is just extraordinary, and it's so accelerated that it's just an extraordinary experience. So I'm in the lucky position of being able to give these golden tickets to to a dozen companies a year to get to come work with us and be part of this.
And thanks for the mentors. So I wanted to point that out as well, because we do small companies on the show, but we also do some of the bigger ones. And I noticed, aside from several of the pivotal venture folks are there, but you have folks from Amazon and various sized investment firms. If you have some of those folks listening that want to get involved, what's the process for mentors that want to join up?
Yeah, so contact us. So if you're a mentor for the space and that sounds like something interesting to you, and there are many ways to get involved. Our core mentorship, of which we surround the class with 100 people a year, is to go spend a day. We call this our mentor madness. So we set up 10 days at the beginning of the program to do speed dating with all the companies. So we start the program and it's 20-minute meetings, and you drop a little wisdom. You see if you fall in love, and if there's a company that is a great fit, mutual fit, then we have you be the lead mentor, one of a few lead mentors for that company that then meets with them for an hour a week for the rest of the program. And that's it. So that's the level of commitment. And that hour a week is invaluable to the startup. So it's kind of an informal advisory board during the accelerator program that helps the company. That's our core mentorship. There are other ways to be involved too, simply letting us know that you're out there and would take meetings once in a while with a company because you have pilot opportunities. Like some of these larger companies that they're interested because, hey, we would like to do pilots with startups. Can we just pay attention to who gets in and pick a few a year that we might be able to do a pilot with? So if you're looking to do pilots with interesting startups in the categories we're talking about, that's a great opportunity to get involved. And it doesn't necessarily have to involve being a full mentor for the program, but we'll do business development days where you can meet the companies. So there's a link on our website that, again, if you just Google Techstars longevity, you'll find us, and then there'll be an ability to get in touch with my program manager for the program, Sarah Hippert, who coordinates all this, and she's terrific.
Cool. And we will put links to all that in the bio of the show. Keith, in addition to the new class and obviously managing the existing, what else do you have going on for 2022? Any conferences that you're going to be presenting at, places that people can listen to you, meet you, anything else that's coming up that you want to mention, please?
Yeah, thanks for that. So we will run as part of our application window. We run a series of thought leader panels, just that just kind of a little bit says what we're working on, and a little bit is just to give first out to the community of people to get some access into our brilliant minds surrounding this. And we'll host those as just kind of crowdcasts that people can participate in and hear from me, hear from our partner at Pivotal, hear from some of our super mentors on what they're working on. And so the best way to find out about those is probably, well, follow our website and/or follow us on our LinkedIn page, which is also available through the website. And we put promotions out for those as they come. So that's a great thing to see us at over the next few months. And then obviously in program, we'll be working closely with the companies that come in, but that's a great way to connect.
Awesome. Really awesome. It's a fascinating program, Keith, and you and I have been chatting online for the last couple of years. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to get together and do this and profile sort of the breadth of opportunities that you're helping move forward, and these innovations. Really, really great stuff. And we continue to follow you. For everybody that is going to be listening to this episode across the various podcast networks or watching on the YouTube channel. Again, you've been listening to Keith Camhi, Managing Director, Techstars Future of Longevity Accelerator. Keith, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to come talk to us for a little while. Obviously, thank you for everything you're doing for this really unmet need. And as we say on our show, thanks for helping to create a better tomorrow for so many people out there via what you're doing. A really good story.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Good seeing you.